Hey guys, welcome to a new video, and if you're new to this channel, then welcome to the channel. My name is Amber and I'm a mixed media artist, always experimenting in my sketchbooks, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. I haven't done one of these just voiceover over my artworks videos for a while, so I thought it might be a nice change and also a way for me to show you my current process of how I've been working in my sketchbooks and also experimenting with some new art supplies. If you watched my last video, you will see that I got these new Jackson's handmade soft pastels in my art haul, and this is like one of the first times when I actually played and experimented with these pastels. So the painting, I'm calling it a painting, but I guess you would call it a drawing if it's like dry media, but for some reason I mostly call my artworks paintings. It's a bird called the masked trogon, or masked trogon, I think. It's probably trogon, but yeah, so the bird that I'm drawing today is off of the Birbfest prompt list. God, too many burbs and birds, I can't get my words out properly. But if you don't know, then on Instagram in January there is a challenge called Birbfest. It's hosted by Monkey Mintaka and birdietam.art. And basically this challenge is just one bird prompt every single day in January. So this was day 15, and this was when I was still up to date with the challenge, because since then I have fallen behind. I'm actually recording this video on the 28th of January. It will be out for you on the 2nd of February, which I can't believe, to be honest, that we're already in February. And yeah, so I'm a little bit behind at the moment, but I'm hoping to catch up with Birbfest. And at this point, I really enjoyed doing these kind of full page spreads using my pastels as a base layer and then going back on top with coloured pencils and Neocolors. But I soon realised that this did take quite a long time to do these birds like this, a good few hours, and it just wasn't like feasible for me to carry on doing this if I wanted to do one every single day and catch up. So the sketchbook that I'm using today is my Pith Oroblanco sketchbook, and I love this sketchbook. I've been using it for all sorts of media. I just tried it with watercolour last night, and I will say it's not a good sketchbook for watercolour in my opinion at all. It kind of like grips the watercolour and dulls the colour down a lot, but for every other medium I have tried on here, including the soft pastels, my pan pastels, gouache, colour pencils, Neocolors, probably loads more, my Ecoline brush pens, anything like that, it is working really nicely, and I'm just really enjoying working on a larger A4. It's like a little bit bigger than A4, this paper. I'm really enjoying working in a bit of a larger format at the moment, and it's been really nice to just do all of my Birbfest drawings in here, all but one, that is, because I did the first one in a different sketchbook. This paper has a really smooth texture on it, and you almost wouldn't think that it would be good for soft pastels, and by no means am I a soft pastel expert. In fact, I'm an absolute beginner at this medium, and I can't even believe that I'm playing with these right now, to be honest, because I have never ever liked this medium. I've always not liked the sound on the paper and the scratchiness and the mess, and I don't know what came over me all of a sudden. It could have had something to do with watching other artists on Skillshare and YouTube using the soft pastels within their mixed media artwork, but I just really wanted to try them, and I had heard that the handmade soft pastels are a lot softer than, say, these Faber Castell soft pastels that I have already. So I've had the Faber Castell ones for quite a long time now and never really used them. They feel really hard and chalky, and like I said, like the noise and the scratchiness has just always gone through me a bit, so I've never really enjoyed them. But I don't know what's happened to me. All of a sudden I don't even mind using these. So I don't know, I'm a new woman. I just enjoy using soft pastels all of a sudden, and I do have a few things in place that sort of help me with my neuroticism over the soft pastel work. So I've got that handy dandy microfiber cloth right there, which is really good for wiping your fingers on, and it just like collects all of the pastel dust off of your fingers, and it's just like, it's way better than using kitchen towel. I've got my Sofft Tools, which I use for my pan pastel art, and I've had these for ages as well, and I really like blending the soft pastels out with the Sofft Tools instead of my fingers, although I do use my fingers a little bit because like I've got the microfiber cloth there, so it's absolutely fine. Like the pastel dust just comes off your fingers straight away, and in fact using your fingers to blend soft pastels I think is actually probably like the best tool. I seem to get the best effects when I use my finger instead of the blender. My husband also has this super cool air blaster tool, which I use right here I took my pastel painting outside, and then I use the air blaster tool to just blast all of the excess dust off of my paper, and I really love using that because it just gets rid of all that pastel dust, and then like I like to use the pastels at the moment as a base layer and then go on top with my coloured pencils. So I'm just picking out some coloured pencils here to work on top with, but using that air blaster, it's like I was starting to go outside and just blow the dust off with my mouth, but obviously you can't get like, you know, air blaster quality mouth blowing going on just with your mouth. So yeah, anyways, there's no like excess dust on my paper at all. I should very much imagine the power behind the air blaster probably knocks too much pastel off of the paper, and especially on this really smooth paper because there's no tooth for the pastel to cling to, but like I've got a nice base layer down of my colour, and that's all I was really bothered about at this point. But I'm looking forward to trying the soft pastels on some proper pastel paper and also some sanded paper as well. So I'll make a video about that when I try it out, and I'll also show you the air blaster, I suppose, because I suppose you're all very interested now. Something I really enjoy about using soft pastels and also my pan pastels. So I've been using the pan pastels again with a few of my birds from the Birbfest challenge. And by the way, if you're wondering why it's called Birbfest, I think it's just a cute way of saying birds because I see that a lot of people are like, why is it called Birbfest? And yeah, I just think it's like, you know, a take on the word bird in a cute way. But anyways, I really love being able to get a really big, bold block of colour layered down on my paper, and then I can go on top with details. So that's the way I really like to work, is like getting my paper covered as quickly as possible, and then I can sort of go on top and sort of shape all the colour afterwards with my detail material, so like coloured pencils and neo colours as well. Something I have noticed within myself and my art is I started off Birbfest really loose and sketchy, and I was able to do these artworks much quicker. And as the days have gone on, I have tightened up a lot, and I've been spending way too long on these drawings, and I think this is why I have fallen behind at the moment. I don't want to be tighter and like focus on the details too much, but it's just something that happens with me, and it's something I think about a lot when I'm drawing, because I want more than anything to like know how to sketch and learn how to sketch accurately, but like I really want to be able to loosen up and focus on big bold shapes rather than tiny details. And I always think about this because I think I put it down to like when I first got into art and drawing and painting, I was a realistic artist. I focused on realism all of the time and drawing realistic pet portraits. And I really think that when I learning how to do art by doing realism has really prevented me from being able to loosen up, because my brain always just goes into that realism mindset. It's like it slowly creeps in, and I have spoken about this in the past and with my artist friend, and we made quite a controversial episode on our podcast once, which is not available anymore, but and I named the episode The Curse of Realism, and it was quite controversial at the time, and I didn't mean any offense to anybody by it. But for me, as an artist who just wants to loosen up more than anything and not focus on tiny details and spend in hours and hours on one painting, because I learned how to do art in the beginning by doing realism and using tiny coloured pencils to create the artworks, I find it so difficult to loosen up now. And even when I manage to do it, it's like the realism always sneaks its way back in. And then I have to like go through a few processes and sort of learn myself how to not do this again. Do you know what I mean? So like I have to watch like artists on YouTube and look at my art books and go back to my watercolors, and just I have to like relearn this all of the time. And I'm not upset about it or anything, because this is just the journey, you know, it's all part of the journey. I absolutely love my art journey, especially now that I'm just filling my sketchbooks up and sharing the process with you guys here on YouTube. I couldn't ask or want for anything more within my art practice anymore. I'm so happy with everything, but I like to evaluate, you know, my mindset and like what I'm doing, and because I like to work with so many different mediums all the time, and I tend to feel like bogged down when I challenge myself, like at the moment. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm so sick of drawing birds, but I must finish this challenge for myself, you know. This is like a personal goal of mine, is to finish this Birbfest challenge, even if I'm a little bit late. But yeah, I like to observe the way that I'm feeling and what I'm learning within my art practice as well. So I'm always like looking back on my sketchbook pages and just looking back at everything I've done before and seeing what I liked at what point in the year and why I liked that, and you know, just looking at different things I want to experiment with all the time. And so my art practice is just constantly new and exciting at the moment, and I'm so grateful and lucky that I can share it here with you guys on YouTube. But yeah, this is just like an observation, is like, why do I keep falling back into this curse of realism, which is what I call it for myself? Because I do feel like because I learned this way, I feel as though I am cursed with this way of drawing and way of creating, and it's very hard for me to loosen up and get back out of that. So I'd love to know your opinions on this. If you're a realistic artist, or if you dabble in a bit of everything, if you know, just any mindset or any thoughts or observations on this topic, I would love to chat to you about this in the comments, because I'm always really interested in everybody else's art journey. And yeah, it's just, you know, good conversation, I feel like. And I remember when we put the podcast episode out a few years ago now, it definitely was a conversation starter, and not always in the best way. But I'm a really open-minded person. I love to hear other people's opinions about everything, even if I don't agree with it. I'm not one to like argue with anybody over their opinions. I love to hear other people's opinions, and I'm a very big talker. So as you can probably tell, I love to talk and chat to people about everything. So yeah, let's talk about it. Back to what I'm doing on the screen right now. So I just got my pan pastels out actually to add a little bit more of like a smooth look to the background, and I really love the way this background came out actually, because it's just got so much texture. I'm quite surprised that for such a smooth paper you can get so much texture. And I'm just going in now with a dark blue coloured Neocolor and just adding in a little bit more texture by just sort of holding the crayon really lightly and just rolling it all around the paper. I like to use a mixture of colour pencils and Neocolors for my details. Neocolors if I want it to be a little bit looser, and then colour pencils if I want the details to be a bit tighter. But you do have to remember that you can't layer colour pencils over the top of a dry Neocolor. If you blend the Neocolor out with water, then you can layer on top with colour pencils, but otherwise it's just too waxy and the colour pencils won't layer over the top. The final details that I really love to add are my Posca pen. The Posca pen definitely struggles to layer on top of one Neocolor and also the Soft Pastels and the Pan Pastels. Posca pen gets clogged up so easily and does not like to layer on top. So you can see how I like pumped it on the little piece of paper next to my hand, and then too much paint come out of that, so I'm just sort of dip it back in there and use that to paint back on my paper. But yeah, the Posca does not like to layer on top of Soft Pastels and Neocolor colours. You know, when I first finished this painting and I put it on Instagram, I really didn't like it very much, and I think this is another example of me being way too hard on myself, because I often am quite hard on myself. I look at something that I spend a long time on and then I'm always like, oh, I really don't like it. I don't like this about it. I don't like that about it. But if you ever feel that way, then the best thing to do is to go away from your artwork for even a couple of hours, but probably like a day or two is the best. I mean, I don't really ever do that, but what I notice is I might not like any of my artworks when I first finish them, but then I go away for a couple of days and look back on that one and I'm like, what was I even thinking? This is like really nice. And I think it's just because when you're spending a long time on an artwork, you're focusing in on the details and the things that you don't like at the time. And then when you go away for a few days and come back to it, then you are looking more at the artwork and painting as a whole instead of those tiny little things that you didn't like. So I really recommend doing that. It's definitely not just like a myth, because I always thought, oh, I don't need to walk away from my artwork. That's, why would I do that? But obviously it does. It really works. One thing to remember when working on top of soft pastels or pan pastels with coloured pencils or something like that is the coloured pencils can knock the pastel back off the paper and like cause more dust on the paper. So before I called this one done, I went back outside, blasted it off with the air blaster, and then I used some fixative to fix my page so it doesn't just transfer straight onto the next page when I close my sketchbook. The fixative I really like to use is the Spectrafix Fixative, and it's really good for pan pastels. I've heard that it doesn't change the colours of them, and from my experience it doesn't, so I thought I'd just use that fixative on my soft pastel artwork, and it is working really well. Needs about 3 layers or so, and I also do put like some paper in between my sketchbook pages anyway, just in case there's any transfer, but the pastel does seem to stay quite nicely. And that was a bit of an off-putting thing for me when I started using my soft pastels, because I really wanted to use them, but I just didn't really like how you can't really use them in sketchbooks without them just transferring to the next page. But the fixative has really helped for that to not be a problem for me, and I do really like that Spectrafix Fixative. But then I haven't really tried any of the others, to be honest, so if you've tried them, then let me know what you think. But I think that's about it for today, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this little masked Trojan bird come to life on my sketchbook page, and I hope you've enjoyed this just chilled out, bit shorter video sketchbook sesh and chat, because I know I have, and it's just nice to have a little bit of a change. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and leave a comment, and also make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!